Here we are, it's a lovely morning in Vietnam today. We got a flight out of Vientiane in Laos yesterday afternoon. It took about an hour and a half to get here to Hanoi. Yesterday we didn't end up doing very much because it took quite a long time to get into the city and we're all quite tired. But now we're heading out into the city and we're going to go look at a few of the sites around and about. Just had a tour inside Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum. So Ho Chi Minh is, or was, the Vietnamese leader from after World War II until his death in the 1970s. And he's a popular and revered figure in this country for the work he did in that time. The mausoleum is quite tasteful, very nicely done, although I can't help but feel the bloke may have preferred the cremation he wanted rather than being put on permanent display, but anyway. But yeah, it's very nice, and we're going to go look around this government area a little bit more now. We're now at one of Hanoi's many lakes. It's quite a calm and welcome change from the hustle and bustle of the main city area. I've been walking around Hanoi a little bit more, and I've hunted down the location of part of a downed American B-52 bomber, which is a remnant of the Vietnam War, and you can just see it's here. There's a bit of a fuselage and some of the undercarriage, as you can see from the wheels there. Had a very nice coffee by the lake it's in, and now I'm going to head just down the road and see if I can find the museum which covers this event. And here are some of the remains of the B-52 bomber I saw the undercarriage of earlier. So this is the B-52 museum. I'm not supposed to be in here right now because it's closing time for lunch, but the gate was open, so I wandered in, and we'll see if I get told off or not. But very impressive, lots of bits of military hardware. And I'm just going to have a look around and see what I can see. I've arrived at this restaurant, just walked past it, and it smelled very good, so I came in, and it's got absolutely excellent food. And this is the pho noodle sort of soup that you can get all over Hanoi, and I heartily recommend it. So this being a socialist country, we have the requisite statue of Lenin here, looking very majestic. And just come over to have a bit of a look at this statue, and turning around the military museum in front of us, which has just had 6 busloads of tourists turn up to it, so I'm sure it's going to be great fun, but that's where I'm going to be heading now. So we're now in the military museum, and you can see some of the planes and military vehicles used in the Vietnam conflict. And now I'm just going to work my way through all these children who are looking at me very strangely and go up this flag tower. And here we are near the top of the flag tower, and it's a very impressive structure. Now if we walk over here, we can have a look down on some of the military equipment they have on display here. So you have a passenger plane and several American ground support fighters, and some helicopters and tanks and all sorts of different things. I've just been to see the Water Puppet Theatre here in Hanoi. I would not recommend it. It's a very interesting production, but I know I'm a cultural philistine, but no, not for me. But I'm just looking at the Ngok Son temple here in this lake, and I'll be heading back to the hotel now to have a little bit of a sit down, and then later on we'll be heading out into Hanoi for a bit of a night out. So we've now left Hanoi, and we have driven about 3 hours to get to Ha Long Bay, which is a little bit further north of Hanoi, about 150 kilometers. And we're now setting off from the harbour, where we arrived about half an hour ago. And we've got a bit of time now as we exit the port, and then we're going to be going out into the bay on this boat we're on. The sun has now decided to come out, and it's made everything look even more impressive. Most of the people on the boat have decided to go on a kayaking excursion, but Juliet and I decided to stay here, just have a bit of a rest and enjoy the view. I'll just swing you around and you can see how lovely the whole place looks when it's all lit up in the sun. And there we go, really pretty. And now in about half an hour we're going to go up the mountain right in front of here with the little pagoda on the top, and there's a little beach, but the main point is to walk up there and have a look at the view from the top of the mountain. So we've finished on the boat just for the time being, and we've gone to somewhere called T-Top Island, and as you can see it is covered in hordes and hordes of tourists, mainly South Koreans and Chinese. I don't think I'd recommend coming here for that. But if you leave the tourists and walk past the building material, and walk round the edge of the island towards the toilets, you can start getting a much better view, and it's a little bit quieter. So it's definitely worth escaping the tourists and finding your way somewhere which actually looks very pretty.
We're now at the top of T-Top Island lookout viewpoint. The sun will be setting in about 40 minutes or so. All the beeping is the Chinese tourists. They come for the day, so they have to head back now, head back to the port and then go back to either Halong or Hanoi. We're staying on the boats, and our boat is out there somewhere. Not sure which one at the moment, but I'm sure we'll find it again later. But yeah, it's a single file sort of steps to get up here. It's a bit precarious in places. Doesn't help with all the people sort of messing around and then overtaking each other, but you are rewarded with quite good views.
So we are now leaving the island and heading back to our boat, and you can see all the happy faces of the people we're travelling with. So we're now back on the boat and can continue looking at the absolutely wonderful sunset. Really, really pretty. And we're gonna walk around the boat and up to the top deck. See if we can have a bit more of a look around this bay. This is where most of the boats tend to anchor overnight. As you can see there are a lot of boats around. We've now had to get up very early to go visit somewhere called the Surprise Cave. So named because it's got a very small entrance, but it is very surprising in the immensity of it on the inside. Several chambers, and we're just having a brief look around before it gets too touristy. Here we are in the third chamber in the caves, and you can see the finger formation there. I'll just spin around, you can get a sense of the scale. But the cave goes even further in, so we'll have a walk inside. You can see how big the cave is on the inside. It's similar to the Mammoth Caves in the USA, but probably a little bit more rugged compared to them. So here we are, having exited the cave, and it was a very impressive cave. It's not reviewed very well on the internet, but getting here early in the morning is actually quite pleasant, not too busy. This is just a view out over this bit of Halong Bay, starting to get busy here, lots more boats turning up. But we're now going to be heading back to our bigger boat and we'll be cruising back into the dock we left yesterday. We're now on our way back to the mainland. You might be able to see in the distance here. We're just leaving the last of the rocky pinnacles. And then we're back on the mainland. We're back to Hanoi for a few hours and then we're catching an overnight train down the coast of Vietnam towards the south. So this is the famous railway street here in Hanoi. It's been closed about 2 months now because apparently tourists were getting in the way of the train too much, but you can still get down here. You just need to say that you're going to go to a cafe. The only problem is the trains are very few and far between now. There's only a couple every day. So it's worth a visit, but you're most likely not going to see a train. And there's also a very angry security guard you've got to try and get past, but walk in, say you're going to a cafe and you'll be able to get through. We have just had a visit to the Hai Lo prison, which was a prison built by the French during the colonial period to house Vietnamese prisoners and housed a lot of the political prisoners of the Young Communist Party in Vietnam. And once the Vietnamese had kicked the French out, it was used to house American pilots during the Vietnamese War. It has an interesting view on the American-Vietnamese war, but the exhibitions on the resistance to French colonialism were very good and interesting. So well worth a visit, even if it does have some slightly macabre moments.